Fancy checking out some more content from me that's not released to Payday 2? Stick around to the end of the video to find out more, or head to the link in the description. If you ask the average Payday 2 player what they want most out of the upcoming sequel Payday 3, I've no doubt that you get a fair mix of responses. But I also have no doubt that one answer in particular would keep repeating itself: make sure that the console versions are perfect this time around. After what can only be described as a hideous timeline for the various different console versions of Payday 2 across 5 different platforms, I myself, just like every other Payday 2 console player out there, wants to see things done right this time, because this is Overkill's final chance to do right by console players after going so wrong over the last 7+ years. And since console versions were first confirmed for Payday 3 back in July of 2020, I've spent some time in previous videos talking about the things that Payday 3 has behind it that should make the console versions better than what we've seen for Payday 2. But there's one feature that I've not discussed up until this point, beyond finances, staff, and a new game engine. And that feature is Crossplay. A feature which would benefit the Payday community not just on consoles, but would also unite the community as a whole. So in this video, I'm going to highlight the exact reasons why Payday 3 needs Crossplay to stand the best chance of being the success it needs to be. Roll the intro. For those of you who don't know, crossplay is the ability within the game to play alongside players on any other platform. PC players can team up with Xbox players can team up with those on PlayStation, and so on and so forth. It's not a very common feature in games across the board, but there is one game series in particular that's really benefited from it over the last couple of years: Call of Duty. Since releasing Modern Warfare 2019, Call of Duty has been using crossplay to allow players on all platforms to play with each other. And since that point, it's become far more of a well-known trait for games, with many players wanting to see all of their favourite titles get the same treatment. But why in particular should Payday 3 get it? Well, crossplay has a whole series of advantages, a handful of which I'm going to be exploring in this video. So let's start off with the first and perhaps most important feature of crossplay that is in particular important for those playing on console. When Payday 2 first released on PC, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 back in 2013, it was clear from the get-go that things were not going to work out well for the console versions. The first DLC updates released on PC, but were nowhere to be seen on Xbox 360 and PS3 for months upon months, until they got the first 3 DLC packs in a single update, only to have support dropped right after. What followed on Xbox One and PS4 when the Crime Wave edition released was a very irritating game of catch-up, where every PC update took months, sometimes over a year, to make its way onto Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Even when the Crime Wave edition launched, it was months behind on content. The most recent update it had was the January 2015 content, when the game itself released in July 2015. And now, after 13 months with no new content on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, there is now some content missing on consoles that was released over 3 years ago on PC. And regardless of why it may be, some of which is for very good reasons, it's just not something that we can tolerate ever again. Of course, that's not to say we didn't tolerate it the first time around, but you get the point. If crossplay is to exist for a game, that means all platforms must have the same content at the same time, otherwise the players could not play together in a meaningful fashion. You couldn't have PC having a certain skill tree system and consoles having a different one. They'd have to be identical. Take Call of Duty for example. For years there were exclusivity deals that meant that only Xbox or PlayStation would get 30 days early access to future DLC updates, and so the other platforms would have to wait those 30 days to get them themselves. At that point, a lot of players didn't even care anyway. But once Modern Warfare 2019 released and crossplay began for Call of Duty, all content began to release at the same time on all platforms, bar a tiny mode on PS4 being platform exclusive for a year that, to be honest, was trash anyway. The point being, to make sure all players on all platforms could take as much advantage of crossplay as physically possible, they need to have all content available at any one time on every single platform that the game releases on. So for Payday 3, this would mean all updates would have to release at the same time on PC and consoles. If you have crossplay introduced right from the get-go, consoles and PC should, in theory, always get updates at the exact same time. Even if it takes a bit longer for some updates to release, I'm sure even the PC players would agree that it would be fairer for all platforms to get the updates at the same time, so there is consistency across all platforms, and crossplay would help guarantee that. Let's go back to the Payday 2 Crime Wave edition launch back in July 2015. For Xbox One in particular, this game was met with a whole heap of matchmaking issues. It was near impossible for most players to find games, and it took months to be repaired, with several status updates being posted by Overkill on YouTube in the meantime. But when it did get fixed, we were given this honestly quite annoying replacement to the matchmaking system. Did you like being able to see all the open lobbies on CrimeNet? Well, tough luck, because that's all gone. Now there's a massive Join Heist button at the top of the screen, and no lobbies visible on CrimeNet beyond that. Using this button, you pick the heist you want to play and at what difficulty, and then hope that someone's playing the thing that you want at the level you want. I've always hated this system, and I don't use it myself because you never know what heists are currently being played on what difficulty, because you can't see which lobbies are open. You have to basically guess and hope you get into what you want every time, but in my experience, you don't get that lucky very often. Your best chance is the quick play option, which allows you to just get thrown into any random heist that's currently being played, but again, in my experience, that doesn't tend to do very well either, because I end up getting placed in heists varying between normal and very hard difficulty about 80% of the time, which is just not the level I want to play at if I'm joining public lobbies. At this point, when I play Payday 2 on my Xbox One or now Xbox Series X, I just host my own lobbies because it ignores all these problems and basically just hope that other people happen to join my game by chance. But I shouldn't have to do that, it shouldn't have to be at that point. And so let's link this back to crossplay once again. If Payday 3 had crossplay, we would be able to connect with players on any platform using the exact same matchmaking system and just be able to see all open lobbies under one shared server and play as we choose. That way, any matchmaking issues would apply to all platforms and Overkill would only need to fix one system to get it working and not have to work on several different platforms with their own matchmaking systems, with their own servers, to try and get each one to work in its own fashion. Just allow players to be able to see all open lobbies on CrimeNet in the way PC players can on servers that share all platforms together and allow all players to play together. In Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, for instance, I can make a lobby and invite someone to my game from my Xbox who's playing on another platform. For example, in the clip you're seeing right now, the person I invite is playing on PC. And there's no stress or fuss attached. I just send an invite or join their game and play. Nice and simple. And when you break it down like that, in reality there really shouldn't be any game that has a great deal of difficulty with implementing this into their own game workings. And I'm really hoping in particular that Payday 3 won't have any issues with that, because that way we can all play with each other for the first time in the Payday franchise. And that would also lead on quite well to my next point. Okay, right off the bat, I know I'm not speaking to everybody when I make this next point, but let's just say that over the last 3.5 years of making Payday 2 content, a lot of which has been for consoles, I've gotten used to the very, very different ways in which this community can behave. You've got the players who care about consoles and want to see equality, just like me. I play on different platforms, I want every platform to be equal. But you've also got players who constantly make jokes at console players' expense, you've got the people who call console players poor or stupid for picking that version, and of course, you've got the height of YouTube comment stupidity, no offense, but it just really is. For those of you who say, just buy a PC, lol. As if a good functional gaming PC is the same price at console. Just shut up, shut up! I don't want to be rude, but that is completely deluded. They're just not the same price level, and some people cannot afford PCs when a console is just so much cheaper. At the end of the day, some players just don't respect the console versions and see them as beneath them or something, which is just plain stupid, because toxic behavior in gaming communities has always been dumb. It never should have been a thing anyway, and it's just like the people who still think that it's entertaining in 2021 to fight over which console is better. Just pick what you want. Nobody cares. And I know I keep linking back to Call of Duty, but it's a good way to connect this to Payday 3, because back before Call of Duty had crossplay, Xbox and PlayStation players used to fight amongst each other about which console was better by saying, oh, we got this DLC first, you got left behind, no one cares about you. And it's this kind of petty garbage that's never been funny, and again, while this isn't the majority of players, same with Payday, I know a lot of you watching this video right now and listening to me make this argument know that you're not the reason that I'm making this point, but we'd see all of these issues just disappear if all platforms are put on equal footing. You'd get rid of all the toxic behavior that some players have towards each other, and for the first time in the Payday franchise, you would have one whole united community instead of there just being a PC community of millions of players and then the console players that got left behind, so to speak. Okay, so now that we've explored some of the key benefits of crossplay in Payday 3, I think it's safe to say that aside from getting a lot of financial backing, having a dedicated team of developers making high quality content, and finally upgrading the game to a decent game engine, leaving Diesel in the dirt, the next most important thing for this game is to ensure platform equality, ease of matchmaking, and a united community. And all three of those can be achieved through crossplay. I have got no idea if Overkill actually plan to include it in Payday 3, but I seriously hope that it's at least being considered, because the benefits are clear to everyone, in particular console players, but also as a whole community we can finally be united and stop having different platforms getting content at different times and have all the players just be equal. It's not a difficult concept, and I'm really hoping it wouldn't be difficult in execution. But what do you think about crossplay for Payday 3? Would you like to see it? And if so, why? Are there reasons for and against it that you think I haven't taken into account? We'll leave all of those in the comment section down below. But that rounds off my video talking about crossplay for Payday 3. Like I said, it was something I really wanted to talk about, and I don't personally believe that anyone else has really given it a lot of consideration. This was one thing that was really nagging at me, one thing I really wanted to focus on for a bit, because I just feel as though crossplay would be something really, really special to me. But if you have enjoyed my deep dive into the potential of crossplay for Payday 3, then you know what to do. Make sure you give it a thumbs up to let me know you've enjoyed this kind of content and you'd like to see more. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, then please consider doing so, because it's quick, it's free, free, and I will always love you for doing so. Twitch and Discord server links are also in the description if you want to see more content from me, and as always, a special thanks go to both my channel members and my patrons who are featured in the outro. If you fancy supporting me on either of those methods and getting some pretty cool perks in the process, then have a look at the Patreon link on screen now, or the links to both of those platforms in the description down below. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, I'd like to spend a little bit of time just briefly talking about a new project I've been cooking up. I am going to explain this in more detail in a separate video, but the skinny of it is this for those of you who are interested. I've made a new channel where I can upload videos on some of my more personal interests beyond Payday 2, such as Marvel movies, Doctor Who, and Star Wars. This won't impact the uploads on the main channel. That's something I need to stress because I know some people will immediately panic and think that it's going to impact this channel and I'm changing my game completely. I'm not. The upload schedule on this channel is never going to change, and anything that I do, if there's a risk of that happening, I won't do it because I just love this channel and I don't want to change anything about it. But it's just something extra for those of you who like my content and actually want to see more from me beyond the Payday world. Now, while I know that's not a lot of you, some of you may actually care, and if you do, this is your chance to have a look at something else I've been cooking up. If you do want to give it a look, I would greatly appreciate it. The first video is already live where I break down the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, Marvel's new TV series, and there's plenty more content coming soon. Either way though, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do truly appreciate it, and I will see you all next weekend with another one. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you all soon.
Make sure that your heart